Shannon Myers was a beloved teacher. Noah Baird was a quiet, gifted 12-year-old. When their lives collided behind closed classroom doors, what emerged wasn't a scandal, it was a crime so twisted, it stunned the nation and left an entire town shattered. A 34-year-old English teacher at Brookview Middle School, she was respected by colleagues and beloved by students. Her classroom was filled with soft lighting, motivational posters, and endless stacks of young adult novels. She organized book clubs, led the yearbook committee, and even ran weekend writing workshops. His father had left when he was young, and his mother worked the night shift at a nearby hospital. The conversation was gentle but illuminating. Noah admitted that they had a special friendship. Her house was empty. Her cell phone was disconnected. Her last known location was a motel 60 miles away. The local police issued a warrant. Law enforcement traced her last known activity to a small roadside motel just outside Fairgrove, Missouri. They retrieved backups of school devices and emails, uncovering more digital footprints than expected. Her laptop, found during a search of her home, contained encrypted folders. The school board held emergency meetings, while news trucks lined the street outside Brookview Middle. Rumors swirled online, and journalists camped near his family's home. A woman matching Shannon's description had been seen living with an older man, paying rent in cash, and never using a real name. In Glenridge, residents watched in disbelief as the teacher they once trusted was marched into a Nevada courthouse. She waived extradition, and within days, she was flown back to Missouri in handcuffs. Her return wasn't welcomed, it was feared. Protesters stood outside the detention center. Commentators on television debated everything from the failures of school oversight to the psychological manipulation of minors. But as emotions boiled in public, investigators behind the scenes worked to prepare for what came next: the grand jury. When law enforcement raided the trailer, they found her hiding in a back room. Her medical records, seized through court order, confirmed what prosecutors had suspected: she had refused to name the father during multiple appointments. It was a carefully calculated omission. Investigators pushed for a DNA test. Shannon's legal team tried to delay it, but the court ordered the test immediately after the child was born. She was pale, visibly pregnant, and said nothing as she was handcuffed. After 2 weeks on the run, Shannon Myers was finally in custody. His mother had to take him out of school, and they relocated to a relative's house out of state for safety. Authorities assigned trauma counselors to the family, and protective measures were put in place. Noah had withdrawn from everything. He barely spoke, refused to eat, and avoided eye contact. Detectives compiled a detailed timeline of Shannon's actions over the last year. The relationship between her and Noah had started slowly, with tutoring sessions twice a week. Then, it grew more frequent. She began picking him up and dropping him off without notifying the school. Cell tower data proved their phones had been at the same location dozens of times outside school hours. Surveillance footage from a local gas station captured them sitting in her parked car for over an hour one evening, though what was said or done inside was unknown. What he'd gone through had left a mark deeper than most could understand. Online, the case was dissected by true crime fans and watchdogs. Some questioned how no one saw the warning signs. Others blamed the administration for not noticing the red flags in her behavior. But everyone agreed on one thing: this was not a case of poor judgment. It was something far darker. When unlocked by cybercrime specialists, they revealed screenshots of text messages, photos of Noah's school assignments with handwritten notes praising his sensitive soul, and even selfies of Shannon that were clearly intended for someone she felt close to. On her phone, investigators discovered a private messaging app hidden under a false calculator icon. That app contained messages from a second account, with language suggesting an emotional and sexual relationship. Hidden within the drafts folder of Shannon's school email account were dozens of unsent letters, each one more disturbing than the last. They read like love notes, some referencing specific dates and places, others containing intimate nicknames and emotional pleas. None had been sent, but they were all addressed to Noah. Security footage showed her checking in alone, dressed in baggy clothing and wearing a baseball cap low over her face. She paid in cash and gave a false name, staying only one night before vanishing again before sunrise. Her car was later found abandoned at a long-term parking lot near the Kansas City airport, but there was no record of her boarding any flights. The trail went cold, and panic gripped the town. A once beloved teacher had become the center of a disturbing, unfolding nightmare. He said they would meet after school, sometimes even in Shannon's car. He said she gave him gifts. One of those gifts, a worn bracelet, was still on his wrist. When asked about her pregnancy, Noah's face changed. His answers shifted from confused to scared. He finally said, "She told me it's ours." Teachers noted he was often alone, even at recess. Shannon had taken a special interest in him. She volunteered to tutor him when his grades slipped. She gave him books to read that weren't part of the school curriculum. Her notes praised his creativity and told colleagues he reminded her of herself at that age. Parents spoke highly of her during PTA meetings. Some even requested she move up to teach high school, just so their children wouldn't have to leave her class behind. No one, not a single person, suspected the kind of secret she was hiding. Shannon Myers had been a fixture in the small town of Glenridge for nearly a decade. It began with an envelope, plain, white, unmarked. It showed up in the mailbox of the school superintendent one Monday morning. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed in bold font were just 10 words: "She's pregnant." The father is a 12-year-old student. No name, no proof. Just a message that could have been dismissed as a hoax. But the weight of the claim couldn't be ignored, especially not in a town like Glenridge, where scandals traveled faster than the wind. The school initiated a discreet internal investigation. The first step was to look into which teachers were on leave. Only one stood out: Shannon Myers. She had filed for medical leave 2 weeks prior, citing exhaustion and early pregnancy complications. It could have been unrelated, but the timing raised eyebrows. The administration checked her school computer. At first glance, nothing unusual appeared. But buried deep in her email drafts were unsent messages that never reached their destination. They were written in an odd, poetic tone, emotional, suggestive, and deeply personal. Most disturbing were the messages that referenced moments only a student would be familiar with: projects, after-school conversations, shared secrets. Cross-referencing her tutoring logs revealed that she had spent significant one-on-one time with a student named Noah Baird. He was a quiet, smart, introverted boy. The district contacted Noah's mother, who agreed to let a child forensic interviewer speak to him. By the end of the week, Shannon's disappearance became national news. Authorities moved quickly once Shannon Myers was officially named a suspect. Her sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the Glenridge community. Meanwhile, investigators focused on gathering evidence to build their case. Law enforcement also obtained a search warrant for her personal devices. By now, public reaction had turned to outrage. Parents demanded answers. Teachers were questioned. Noah's identity had been kept private, but details began to leak. Then came the breakthrough. A tip from a Greyhound employee in Nevada led officers to a trailer park outside Reno. News of Shannon Myers' capture spread quickly. Television anchors led with her mugshot, her once warm smile replaced by a blank, unreadable stare. Shannon was 8 months pregnant when she arrived at the county jail. Officers arranged for her prenatal care under tight supervision. In the meantime, the grand jury process moved forward. The digital messages were the most powerful proof the prosecutors had. There were over 100 text messages, emails, and online chats. Some were kind and emotional, but others were clearly inappropriate. A classmate of Noah's said he noticed Noah acting differently, quieter and more distant. Another student said he once heard Noah call Shannon his secret, but no one thought it was serious at the time. They charged Shannon Myers with 14 serious crimes, including rape of a child abuse, and running from the law. A woman once respected as a great teacher now faced many years in prison. They said Shannon had mental health problems and didn't fully understand what she was doing, and people from the town came to watch. Shannon stood quietly in handcuffs as her charges were read. She showed no emotion. They claimed she had gone through her own abuse in the past and was confused by Noah's attention. But the prosecution didn't accept it. Some messages were so disturbing the judge blocked them from being shown to the public. They found her guilty on all charges. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stood there as the judge listed each crime. A teacher's assistant said she once saw Shannon crying after meeting with Noah, then pretending like nothing had happened. The defense said Noah had misunderstood her and made things up. She worked in the laundry and stayed alone most of the time. He never spent any of it. He once told a counselor, "There's no refund for a stolen childhood." That quote was later used in a documentary about the case. She ignored letters from the media and never gave interviews. Slowly, people forgot about her as new crimes made the news. But when DNA tests proved that the baby was Noah's, Their defense fell apart. Everyone in the courtroom was shocked. She couldn't apply for parole until she served 25 years. The judge said she used her power as a teacher in the worst possible way. They said Shannon planned everything and knew exactly what she was doing. He went to therapy 3 times a week and moved with his family to a new city. They changed their names and never spoke of Shannon again. Noah didn't talk about the baby and avoided people. He stayed off social media and hated attention. One message from Shannon said, "You see me in ways no one else ever has." Neither Shannon nor Noah were allowed to find out where he was. The adoptive parents kept everything private. Maybe one day they would tell Elijah the truth, but not anytime soon. In the video, he looked scared, confused, and very nervous. Prosecutors explained that Shannon had emotionally controlled him by using her role as a teacher to get close to him. "You're my everything," another said. "They'll never understand, but what we have is real." These messages showed she wasn't confused or forced into anything. She believed what she was doing was love. The birth happened under tight security in a hospital connected to the prison. Social workers were there. As soon as the baby was born, he was taken away and placed in foster care. A judge made sure that no one could find out where the baby was or who adopted him. Shannon wasn't allowed to see or talk to her child. The grand jury listened to people from the school, police officers, and digital experts. Noah didn't have to come to court, but the jury watched a video from his interview with a child specialist. The grand jury didn't take long to make their decision. 6 months after she was charged, her baby was born while she was in jail. Her lawyers tried to make a deal. When the trial started, the courtroom was packed. Reporters, crime show podcasters. The jury heard all the evidence, messages, emails, photos, and even a letter Shannon wrote about running away with Noah to start a new life. Other teachers said Shannon had started acting strangely, staying late, taking calls in private, and hiding her computer screen. After a week of trial, the jury didn't need much time. A month later, the judge gave her 38 years in prison. Shannon was moved to a high-security women's prison. Inmates didn't treat her well. Crimes involving children are hated even in jail. Her baby, named Elijah, was adopted by a new family in another state. The government changed his name and sealed all records. Noah's life changed forever. At 17, he changed his name legally. He won a lawsuit against the school for not protecting him, and the money was put in a trust. Noah's story became a symbol of a crime that shocked everyone and one that no one will ever forget.